Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Carlene Spry. I'm the awards administrator for the Golden Crown Literary Awards, and I want to welcome you to the last weekend of the first ever series of the Goldie Finalist Spotlights. For those new to the Golden Crown Literary Society, the GCLS recognizes and rewards quality literary works about women who love women and provides learning opportunities, encouragement, and assistance to new and established writers. In addition, we have a highly respected writing academy, our annual conference, which is our annual gathering of hundreds of readers, writers, publishers, and editors. And we have a monthly GCLS members only online book club. We invite you to learn more about the GCLS and perhaps become a member by visiting our website at goldencrown.org. We'll have some time at the end of the session for Q&A, so please be sure to use the Zoom Q&A box to submit a question. If you run into technical issues, please log off and then log back in, and that's usually going to resolve most issues. There is closed captioning available. You can turn it on using the controls on your Zoom screen. And we are thrilled to have iReadIndies.com as our sponsor today. iReadIndies.com is excited to congratulate the Goldie Award finalists on their accomplishments and welcome all of our event attendees today. Now, in case you haven't heard, iReadIndies.com is a newly established collaboration of over 50 independent authors of women-loving women literature. Their mission is to bring more visibility and recognition to any who put their time, effort, and resources into self-publishing their work. So visit iReadIndies.com and see what you've been missing. Okay, so that's it for announcements. Let's go ahead and get started. And let me introduce our authors today. Carsen Taite will be reading from a contemporary romance short novels finalist, Out of Practice. Anne Roberts' book, Dying on the Vine, is a finalist in the mystery thriller crime category. Madeleine Taylor will share a selection from Online, which is a finalist in erotic novels. And Radclyffe is reading from Love on the Night Shift, which is a Goldie finalist in contemporary romance mid-length novels. So, Madeleine, are you there? There she is. Okay, so there are readers, everyone. Happy smiling faces on this Saturday, and we are now going to turn it over to Miss Carsen Taite to do her reading. Carsen, the floor is yours.
So I'm going to read from Out of Practice, which came out a few weeks before the pandemic took the world down last year. So I've never read from it before. It's the second book in the Legal Affairs series. It's a standalone novel. The series is about a set of three friends, and this is centered around Abby, who is a lawyer, and Roxanne, a wedding blogger. They have met at a exclusive resort out of the country, had an instant attraction, but what happened in Puerto Vallarta stays in Puerto Vallarta, or so they think. This scene takes place after they're both back in Austin at their real lives, and now the sparks of attraction are accompanied by the sting of surprise when they find themselves on opposite ends of a legal battle. Abby's clients own a chain of wedding stores that have suddenly shuttered, leaving brides without dresses for their special day. And Roxanne has been cast as the anchor of a TV show called Best Day Ever and tasked with whipping up a story worthy of top tier ratings. When Roxanne reached the parking lot of the law firm, she was surprised to see how many brides-to-be were already assembled. The number had quadrupled since her viral video from Friday. Maybe Best Day Ever was onto something. The women started crowding around her. "You're the bride's best friend, aren't you? I've been reading your blog since I met my fiance. You have such good advice. Way to show up for your peeps. We're counting on you to lead the fray." Whoa, wait. Roxanne felt the big smile she'd been wearing a moment ago start to collapse. She wasn't a gossip columnist bent on whipping up a frenzy to garner ratings, but now was the perfect time to clarify her role. Ladies, I am here for you to document, report your stand here today, and make sure your voices are heard. But the protest, that's all you. Don't let anyone take away your power, including me. She continued on a bit before ceding the stage to one of the brides to be. Jake, the on site producer, tapped her on the shoulder. You're going to need to be a little bit more aggressive if we're going to get some good footage. She dropped her voice to a whisper. This really isn't my thing. Being on camera or getting in people's faces? Both. The camera I can get used to. I'm looking forward to getting in front of a whole new audience, but the aggressive part doesn't really scream happy wedding blogger, in my opinion. This show isn't going to sell itself. You need a hook, and your willingness to stand up for brides who've been ripped off is a great one. Roxanne nodded while she contemplated his assessment. He was right, of course, but what better use for her platform than to provide real assistance to women who'd been her loyal readers for the long haul. A minute later, the door to the law firm opened and she nudged Jake's arm. Start rolling. We might get some good footage on the way. She waved at the crowd of brides and motioned toward the front of the law firm, smiling as they started up the I do chant again. She started walking toward the door, shoulders squared, ready to do whatever it took to show best day ever she had what it took to dominate the wedding market. But she was barely 3 steps into her march when she stopped dead in her tracks at the sight of Abby standing in front of her with her hands on her hips. What are you doing here? Abby asked. Roxanne's heart beat faster and her eyes locked on Abby's kissable lips, now pursed into a frown. She wanted to ask the same thing, but words failed her as she'd completely lost the ability to string together complete sentences. She motioned to Jake to stop filming, but he shook his head. Exasperated, she turned away from him and stepped closer to Abby. A rush of heat swept between them, but she told herself it was Abby's obvious anger fueling the fire and not the simmering attraction that had once been full boil between them. I could ask you the same thing. Abby's eyes narrowed. This is my office. I belong here. She waved at the crowd. Are you really with these people? Roxanne slowly digested the tidbit of information. Abby worked here, at this office. Was she? Could she be? You represent Barclay's Dresses? Say it isn't so. Don't pretend you didn't know. Roxanne crossed her heart. Swear, I had no idea. How would I? No shop talk on the island, remember? She watched as Abby's eyes darkened the way they had when they'd made love. Made love. Roxanne shuddered and reframed the thought. They'd had sex, excellent, mind-blowing sex, but that's all it had been. Today was evidence of that. If you'd called, maybe we could have talked about current events, like how your clients are ruining the hopes and dreams of hundreds of women on the eve of their special day. Abby's angry face returned. If I hear the words special day one more time, I'm going to blow. Exchanging jewelry, eating cake, dancing the night away makes for a great party, but it doesn't mean anything beyond that. This, she gestured again, but wildly this time to encompass the entire crowd. This is a big show designed to convince people that if they spend enough money, they can guarantee future happiness. But the only guarantee they really get is they'll wake up the morning after, legally bound to another person who probably doesn't look as shiny and new once they're out of the wedding day spotlight. Even through her anger at Abby's tirade, Roxanne saw the pain in Abby's eyes, and she almost forgot where she was and what she was doing long enough to pull Abby into her arms and hold her until the hurt subsided. But the camera was rolling, and her big break depended on turning moments like these into TV gold. Could she be that heartless? She looked over her shoulder and saw that the camera was still trained on them, and every one of the brides-to-be was listening in. She felt a tap on her shoulder. Excuse me, ma'am. It took a moment, but an authoritative voice shook Roxanne from her dilemma. She looked up to see a policewoman standing beside Abby with a firm expression. What seems to be the problem, officer? She said, unable to resist the easy line. Do you have a permit to be demonstrating here? Damn. I think you already know the answer, but just for the record, I don't. She turned to Abby. I can't believe you called the police. Really? You can't believe that a place of business, one that isn't or has ever sold bridal dresses, might not want to be mobbed by a bunch of angry brides? Brides to be. Whatever. Don't whatever me. It makes a difference. Some of these women have been planning their, she paused and spoke with emphasis, special day for a long time. Just because it doesn't mean anything to you doesn't mean it doesn't mean anything to them. Are you going to say it's just a dress because your clients have made a living selling those dresses, but I guess they no longer care about their brand? The police officer made a timeout motion. Obviously, you can be here to report on this, but I don't think any one of us wants a scene, and these women don't have permission to be here. Maybe you can do something to move them off the property? She smiled. You are the bride's best friend, right? Roxanne smiled brightly at the officer. Yes, ma'am, I am. She thought fast. You know, I might be inclined to ask these women to move if I could get an exclusive interview alone with the attorney for Barclays. She turned to Abby and offered even a bigger smile. What do you say, counselor?
Yay! Wild applause from the audience. Thank you so very much. Ann Roberts, we are now going to hear from you. The floor is yours.
Okay, good morning, everybody. It's thrilled to be here with all of you and with the other authors. I'll be reading from Dying on the Vine. This is the 8th book in the Ari Adams mystery series. It's a standalone whodunit. Ari Adams is a real estate agent and trouble seems to find her. In this story, she has gone to Oregon with her best friend, Jane, and they are visiting Sisters Sellers Vineyard, which is owned by Jane's childhood friend, Mina Summer. And they're there to see if the vineyard would be a good location for Jane's upcoming wedding. Unfortunately, right as they arrived, the sommelier, that's a wine expert, has been found murdered, and Mina has asked for Ari's help in finding the killer. At the beginning of this scene, it's late in the evening. Ari is enjoying some wine on the patio, looking out at the vineyard in the deep, dark night, unaware that she is about to have an encounter with the killer. This is Dying on the Vine. Ari sipped her Pinot Gris and stretched, hanging her long legs over the edge of the lounge chair. The lights from the patio illuminated the first few rows of the grapevines, and then the night gobbled them up. She saw a shadow in her peripheral vision, and Dexter, the vineyard dog, jumped in her lap. He wore a bright yellow sweater to ward off the chill and looked absolutely adorable. She laughed as he licked her cheek. She leaned back in the lounge chair and stared into the night sky. Dexter's gaze remained focused on the vineyard while Ari stroked his head. What you see, Dex? Aren't you supposed to be with Mina? I don't think she'll like it if she calls and you don't come. Suddenly his back went rigid and he emitted a low growl. Ari sat up, tracking his gaze. He sprang from the lounger and took off into the night. Dexter, Ari called, but he disappeared between 2 rows of grapevines. Dexter, come! She trudged down the uneven flagstone steps to find him, carefully watching the ground. She took a deep breath, dreading the idea of walking into the darkness. Dexter! She closed her eyes, listening to the grape leaves rustling in the wind. There was a yell of pain. Damn it, a voice hissed, then a yelp. Dexter, someone is hurting the dog. She barreled into the pitch black night, jogging between the vines, slowing, listening, charging forward again. She stopped, suddenly realizing how stupid she was. She'd left her phone and its flashlight on the table next to the nearly empty bottle of wine. She crouched and let her eyes adjust to the surroundings. She knew she wasn't alone in the field with Dexter. Someone had cried out, someone had sworn, and someone had smacked or kicked Dexter. She tripped over something and hurtled forward, cushioning her fall with her forearms, and landed face first on the fertile soil. Then Dexter's furry little face pressed against hers, offering slurpy kisses. She managed to smile and studied him. He seemed to be okay. He wagged his tail, wasn't limping or growling, so she imagined the danger had passed. A cylindrical shaped object rested on its side a few feet away. Hold on, boy, she said, gently pushing Dexter from her lap and retrieving what proved to be a coffee can with a plastic lid. She shook it lightly. It sounded half full. She prepared to remove the lid and stopped. Something nagged at her. She patted him on the head, tucked the coffee can under her arm, and went back to the patio. She called Mina, who hurried over to the vineyard. A coffee can in the vineyard? What the hell? Mina stared at it, puzzled. She shook it and said, huh. She peeled back the lid, froze, and immediately resealed the can. When she looked up at Ari, she was pale, her hands shaking. When you found this can, she whispered, was the lid on? Yeah, I think Dexter scared the person and they dropped it and ran away. Mina scooped up Dexter, wrapped him in a hug, and gazed at Ari. You have no idea what you've done.
Woo! Cliffhanger. All right. Thank you very much, Anne. Let's now move on to Madeleine Taylor.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I'm Madeleine Taylor, aka Lisa Gold, and I'm going to read from Online, which is a Goldie Finalist in the category erotic novels. It's a story about two women, Sid and Valerie, who meet in an online erotica book club. And Valerie is straight, or so she thinks she is, and she only got into reading the genre after ordering a lesbian erotica by accident and decided she really liked it. And she is really into Sid. They've been chatting in the book club, and once they decide to take it away from the platform into private, it gets very heated. So I'm going to read from chapter 13, which is when they actually meet. They've just met for the first time, and Sid's just picked her up from the airport, and they've arrived at Sid's apartment in Quebec. Okay. Sid's apartment on the top floor of a charming old red brick building is small, but has a lot of character, with original beams, a fireplace, a low ceiling that gives a cozy feel to the place, and a cast iron balcony off the living room that's covered in ivy. It's located in one of the cutest pedestrian streets I've ever seen, at the foot of the cliff below Chateau Frontenac. I walk around and take it all in, smiling at the personal touches. When you know very little about someone's day-to-day life, you form an idea of them in your head, imagining their lives and surroundings. Nothing could have been further from how I pictured Sid's style, but at the same time, it makes sense. It feels incredibly personal to be here in a space, seeing her pictures on the walls and her things strewn around. It's not pristine like my penthouse, which is sterile and kept tidy by my housekeeper at all times, but it's got character and a very cool vibe to it. I love your apartment, I say, standing in front of the French doors that lead to the balcony, which affords a view of the locals and tourists in the street below. She comes up behind me and slides my coat off my shoulders, so slowly that a hiss escapes my mouth. Everything is a new experience with her, and even the simple action of taking off my outerwear feels highly sensual. I waited 7 years for something to come on the market here, she says, pouring me a glass of red wine without asking me what I want. But I don't want to talk about property now. Do you? She doesn't need to remind me why I'm here, because touching a naked body is all I can think of. She hands me the glass of wine and stands behind me again, breathing against my shoulder while she runs her hand through my hair. I know she can see the hairs at the back of my neck rise, and I shiver when she traces a finger down it. Are you nervous, Val? Her voice in my ear is low and sultry, her lips brushing against my earlobe. She's clearly a master of building anticipation, as I'd expected her to ravish me by now, but instead, she refrains from touching me much at all. It's like she's studying her prey before going in for the kill, and it thrills me. Yes, I answer honestly. The way my heart is beating and my pulse racing, there's no point of denying it. I know she can feel my anxiety coming off me in waves. I've never been this nervous in my life, but I've also never wanted anything so badly. Knowing she likes to be in charge, I stay where I am, facing the street. Her hand curls around my waist, and I hear her taking a sip of a wine. The touch feels electric and my abdomen tenses as she gropes me and pulls me firmly against her. I take in a quick breath and hold it. She makes no point of putting me at ease, and I wonder if she likes that I'm scared. The public parking lot felt safe to me, but now that I'm in her lair, I tremble at the unknown. Still, there's no way I'd leave, not now, because I'm so aroused that my panties are dripping wet. I take a sip of my wine too in an attempt to calm myself. I'm so not in control right now, yet our game makes me feel alive in a way I never imagined. Don't be nervous, there's no need, she finally mutters, deciding I've been tortured enough. Her mouth moves back to my ear again and she drags her tongue over it, then lingers there. Her ragged breath shoots through my body like a lightning bolt, making my pussy twitch. I'm going to fuck you until you scream, and after that, I'm going to teach you how to pleasure me. I can feel her lips pull into a smile as she delivers a blunt statement. Would you like that? By now, I've melted into a pool of liquid desire and I nod. At least I think I do. Sid takes the glass from me and puts it on the coffee table, along with her own, then brushes my hair to one side, baring my shoulder. She slides the spaghetti strap off my dress down, then kisses my skin, working her way inward toward my neck. I moan when I feel her wet lips on me and cry out when she bites my neck. It doesn't hurt, but it shocks me. No one has bitten me before, and I tense up as her hands wrap around me tight, then move up to my breasts. She cups them through the fabric of my dress and squeezes them, reminding me that I'm hers tonight. It feels so good that I throw my head back against her shoulder, my eyes fluttering when her thumbs brush over my already erect nipples. Even through the dress and my bra, I know she can feel how hard they are, how turned on I am. I can hardly believe a woman is kissing my neck and fondling me a sweet scent, and the softness of her cheek against mine, reminding me that this will be a night to remember. Her fingers spread apart as she moves her hands down my body, her movements symmetrical, pushing down on my skin as they settle on my thighs and lift up the hem of my dress, just like I imagine her doing in the fitting room when I bought it. The room is dimly lit and outside nightlife is already buzzing in the early evening. Although I don't expect anyone on the street to look up and see me, there are similar apartments opposite us, and the idea of doing this here by the window feels lewd and dangerous. I like what you're wearing from me, she says in a seductive tone, tracing the edge of my stockings. She watches me in our reflection as she plays with the elastic of my black suspenders, then releases the fasteners one by one. I flinch as I feel them snap up against my hips, the simple action sending a shot of adrenaline through me. If you want to know what happens next, you'll have to read online.
Well, gracious. If it's morning where you are, you're awake now. Okay, so now let's conclude our readings with Radclyffe. Floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Hope you all enjoyed that one. You've caught your breath. This one is Love on the Night Shift. Love on the Night Shift features Blaise Richelieu, an ER nurse with a 16-year-old daughter and a secret in her past that she wants to stay that way. Grady McClure is a young, brash new surgeon at the Rivers Hospital, and she is exactly the kind of woman Blaise does not find attractive, usually. This is their first meeting. Grady has been called to see an elderly gentleman in the ER with a cold, painful foot. Blaise has just come on duty and has not yet met her. Okay, Wilbur, Grady said, you've got a blockage in the artery to your leg and it needs to get opened up. You can do it with one of those balloon things, right? Wilbur asked. Grady waggled her hand. Maybe. It depends on where the blockage is, how old it is, what the vessels look like. I better call my wife, Wilbur said. Grady laughed. Good idea. She turned, grabbed the white, yellow, and green striped curtain around the cubicle and whipped it aside. The woman standing an inch away was about her height and flinched as their eyes met. Whoa, sorry, Grady blurted. The startled eyes staring back at her were an unusual hue of gray-blue that reminded her of the Pacific in winter. Not cold, the way you might expect, but depthless, as if all the secrets in the world were hiding below the surface. Who? The blonde with the storm blue eyes continued to stare at her. Are you the surgeon? That's me. Grady grinned and held out a hand. I'm Grady McClure. When she got no response from the woman wearing navy blue scrub pants and a scrub shirt with tiny iridescent fish all over it, she tapped the plastic name tag pinned to her lab coat. Dr. Grady McClure, surgery, says so right here. Still no smile. Grady tilted her head, trying to determine if the fish were all going in one direction or not. That is one seriously strange scrub shirt. I'm Blaise Richelieu, the woman said abruptly, as if she wasn't all that happy to see her. Charge nurse on the night shift. What do you need? Grady frowned. Something about the cold shoulder turned in her direction for no good reason she could figure irritated her more than it should have. Well, that's a loaded question. Richelieu's lips pressed together. No nonsense attitude, no sense of humor either. I was referring to your patient, doctor, Blaise said in a voice as icy as her now chilly expression. Grady mentally shrugged. All business it would be then, since friendly was definitely off the table. I need someone from interventional radiology. I need an arteriogram. Tonight? Blaise asked. Yes, tonight. Grady leaned against the counter. Is that going to be a problem? Blaise swallowed back the retort forming on her lips. Grady McClure, all tousled black hair and unholy blue eyes and angular planes and a face too damn handsome for words, came on strong and was probably used to getting what she wanted on the basis of sexy good looks alone. Not very generous of her, Blaise admitted, but she wasn't used to being so off balance. And that was not acceptable when she had a patient to think about. No, of course not. Well, it might be a bit of a problem if Marianne Okunski's on call, because she does not like getting out of bed in the middle of the night. Who does? McClure said with a devil's smile. Blaise gritted her teeth. Grady McClure probably got a lot of mileage out of her sexy, teasing grin that wasn't sexy or charming. Most definitely not as far as Blaise was concerned. Some people, Blaise said, choose specialties so they won't have to get out of bed in the middle of the night. Well, tonight is not that night, Grady said with a careless shrug. You want me to deliver the bad news? I just need to know who to call. No, I'll handle it. Blaise turned away, slowing when she sensed Grady right behind her. Something else? I need a cup of coffee. Can I get you one? Grady asked. Blaise schooled her expression to hide her surprise. Doctors and nurses didn't have the kind of hierarchical division that had existed even 10 years before, but they weren't always easy colleagues either. I just had one, thanks. Well, Grady said, I'll be in the... She shrugged, grinned again. I'm not exactly sure where I'll be. Where do you hide the coffee down here? Blaise blew out a breath and pointed down the hallway to her right. Break room is down there. I can't vouch for how old the coffee is. Coffee's never too old, kind of like women that way. Blaise spun on her heel. Way, way too charming to be anything but trouble. Luckily, she'd been cured of susceptibility to sexy and charming a long time ago. Thank you very much, and thanks to everyone for being here.
I decided to join you.
Thank you. It was getting lonely here.
You look lonely.
Hello.
Thank you so very much to each of you for spending time with us today and sharing those readings. They were awesome. It was a nice variety of stuff. I liked it. Cliffhangers, sexy. Woo. Okay, so everybody remember, if you've got questions, put them in the Q&A so that we can ask those of this distinguished panel of authors. And you probably also noticed that I put in the chat links to purchase these books. So please go click on some links. These people spend time writing these books for us. And let's face it, they're not in it for the money.
What?
I seriously doubt they're getting rich right now, and can retire next week. So let's support them. Let's show our love and go buy their books. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with a few questions. And like I said, throw in your questions in the Q&A box and we'll have some fun today. So let's just go around the room, if you will. And I'm going to start with Anne. I'm going to start with you. Where did the inspiration for this particular story come from? I know it's part of a series, a mystery series, but this particular story, where did that inspiration come from?
Actually, well, I am someone who does love wine, and we were visiting a friend up in Washington at her tasting room. And we just started talking about the wine industry and how she got involved in it. And it became really clear that not only is this a true art form, it's a combination of art and science of making wine, but it's pretty cutthroat. It can be somewhat political. She was saying, I have this secret grape growing area that I don't tell anybody about. And it's like, it was all starting to shape up like, wow, somebody could die here. This would be really good. And then I did find out that there are ways that to how to start the book. There's actually the murderer, the killer is one person in this book, but the victim is actually killed by the wine.
Okay.
Not poisoned. The wine kills him.
Okay. And there's just something delicious about, this would be a great place for a murder. Wow, I'm not worried about you at all, Anne. Not at all. Thank you. Radclyffe, how about you?
This is part of the Rivers series, which is, for those of you who don't know, it's a series about a community in upstate New York, which is focused in a small village, which is taken from the one right where I live. And it's about a dynasty of family doctors who have been at this hospital since it was built for over 100 years. So the series is very much about community and about the families that we make and the families that we choose. And this particular book is a lot about family entanglements. And I can't give too much away because it will give away part of the story, but I had written, I think this is number 6, maybe 7 in the series. And I bring in new characters for every one of the books so that there's a new romance as well as continuing characters. And I wanted to introduce a new, young surgeon with someone who had been in town for a long time, who was part of the community and how that worked. And the woman that she's interested in, Blaise Richelieu, is a little bit older than her, has a daughter who's a teenager. So there were some interesting things to have to deal with in terms of a romance.
Okay. Thank you. Madeleine, how about you? Where'd the inspiration for online come from?
I don't think there are many books out there that are about an online relationship. And I felt like it was something I wanted to try, and I felt like it was a very difficult thing to write because they're not physically together for most of the book. But I think actually it's more relevant now than ever after the pandemic. And I think a lot of people have had relationships like that. And I don't know. It's been fun to write, and I've even tested all the camera angles and everything on my head. I think now with everything being so online, it's much easier to have a very intimate relationship, and it's not the same, but I think it's helped people a lot. So I just wanted to explore that.
Okay. All right. Great. And if we have to hear from Carsen, I guess we'll hear from Carsen. Carsen, how about you?
So the series was just my way of taking a break from crime and suspense. It's more light, contemporary romance. And when I was coming up with the idea for each book, this one was easy because right before I pitched this idea, there was a Florida-based bridal dress store chain that shuttered its doors and left brides hanging. There were container ships waiting at the dock, and they wouldn't unload because no one was there to pay for the goods, and the brides were protesting, and it was a big deal. And so my buddy Paula, who lives in Florida, sent me all the newspaper articles, and we chatted about it, and that's how I came up with the idea for this particular book. So ripped from the headlines, but not crime.
Okay. Well, so a Florida woman story. Taken away from the Florida man. Equal opportunity. So Madeleine, I'm going to come back to you, but this question is for everybody because your answer triggered something in my brain. So let's talk a little bit more about the research that you did for this book, because I do. No, and I say that because, here's the reason why. I'm not being a creeper. I'm totally not being a creeper. Because it is a different kind of research. Usually the research that you've got to do involves, reading things or exploring things or going places and so on and so forth. And this obviously was more practical research rather than like historical or theoretical research. So how did that differ from research that you've done from other books? And how did that affect your writing? So I'm not being a creeper. This is a valid question.
Right. Well, so I normally actually, when I write as Lisa Gold, I normally travel for my research, and I normally write on location because I write travel romance. And when I write as Madeleine Taylor, and specifically with online, yes, the research is more practical. It doesn't mean that okay.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get into details, but when you write a book like online, you need to know what is possible and what is not. When you want to have online sex, and how do you need the gadgets and all the stuff. You need your stands and your phone or your computer, and you need in this case they send each other toys, and so the research was done at home.
Yeah, and
that's all I'm going to say.
No, and like I said, I'm not looking for nitty-gritty details in that I am just interested then in how the different kinds of research that you've done for your various books, because I've heard you in the past talk about that you travel and write on location, that does it affect the writing of the book, and how, whether it's an easier or harder, or is it simply different? How does it affect your actual writing process?
It's just simply different. When I write as Madeleine Taylor, I mainly write at night. I need the atmosphere, I need darkness and sort of maybe candlelight or a glass of wine. And when so
Okay.
it is completely different.
Okay, good. Like I said, I did not mean
You need to get into the mood.
Yeah, I did not mean that to be a creeper question. I totally did. But it is just interesting in terms of research. Carsen, how about you? In terms of research, in particular for this story, but kind of in general, what kind of research do you do, if any?
I mean, it just depends. It depends on the subject. I have a stack of bridal magazines for this particular book, because one of
out
my
a dress?
the wedding bloggers don't normally spend a lot of time reading about weddings, but it just varies. But that's what I got from this one, a year's worth of all kinds of bride stuff.
Okay. Maybe we can see a fashion show from you later.
Maybe.
Radclyffe, how about you? What kind of research is happening specifically for this book, but also in general?
Well, specifically for this book in this series, I think two things were of real interest to me. What actually inspired this series is that there is actually a hospital up on a hill in the center of the village in Cambridge, New York. It's called the Mary McClellan Hospital, and it was built in the early 1900s by a guy and another guy. Two men built it, and they built it for the community, which totally fascinated me. And there's a lot of history around that hospital, and that's the focus of the community at that time and in this series, even though the series is contemporary. So I did a lot of research just because it's fascinating, and it's closed now. I can walk up there and look at it. The other thing about this series is that one of the major secondary characters is a trans teenager. And writing him was a challenge because I wanted to get it right. And I went online and looked at YouTube videos from trans teens who were talking about their transition, their surgeries, their family, how open they were about it or not open about it. A lot of them, these are trans teen guys, would show their surgery scars. So I wanted to get a sense of what it was really like, as well as I could, not having that authentic experience. So that if I don't know something, I will always go online to research it. And that's how I did it for this book.
Okay, great, thank you. And Anne, how about you?
This book was really heavy in research because, wine was the fruit of the gods. It's been around for thousands of years, but the process is heavy in science, but there's an art form to it in terms of making new blends. So I did a lot of, I had to sample a lot of wines. That was definitely required. But I did
hardship.
Yeah,
sure.
that part was the hardship. But I spent a lot of time going to different vineyards, talking with actually the winemakers, which was amazing. Some of them are just, little tiny wineries that have been run by families for decades, and others are big productions. But then it became the task of, you're not writing a research paper. That's not the point of the story. So then taking all of this research and really trying to capture the art of winemaking, as well as the role of the sommelier, and the fact that the master sommelier exam is probably one of the hardest tests in the world. It's several parts long. You have to be able to sniff and take a sip of wine and instantly be able to say what year, what vintage, or what type, where, and you don't get the label if you can't do that. So there's so many facts though that I wanted to share with readers, but I didn't want them coming away thinking, okay, this could have been just a nonfiction book on the shelf. So that was probably the biggest challenge, was to make sure that it blended with the story.
Okay, blended. Good use of a word when talking about wine.
Yes.
Yeah, and I come from the, oh look, it's got a pretty label, I think I'll choose that.
Yeah.
So that's how much I know about wine.
That's the marketing. That is part of it.
Yeah, it's like, it's got a pretty label, I'll buy that. Okay, so Carsen, I'm coming back to you now. If you had to pick a song, if you had to pick a song that kind of represents this writing, or like maybe something that was in your mind or on a playlist, what do you think that might be?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, it's different. These books are different than my usual fare. I mean, I write contemporary romance, but I primarily write suspense, intrigue, and mysteries. So I'm going to say Walking on Sunshine.
Okay. Hey, there are no right or wrong answers here. It's just, the way it is. Which also, and I'm going to add this to the question for everybody else. Do you ever have kind of like a playlist in your mind when you're writing books? Because some people do, some people don't. I'm wondering if you do. No? Okay. Everybody's
Everybody
like,
says no.
hell no. Okay, then I'm just going to open up. Anybody else? Is there a song out there that you think would represent your particular book? And if you, I'll just want to say no, we'll move on.
Country Roads.
Country Roads?
Very good.
I like it.
100 bottles of wine on the wall. That sounds familiar. Yeah.
Madeleine, anything from you?
As Madeleine, gosh, I don't know, maybe fever.
Mm.
Okay, okay. I like it. I like it. Good, 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 good. Um, so the next question then becomes, and I'm pulling some questions that other people have asked over the last few weeks too, is do you have a particular writing routine? Something that, you know, keeps you on task, or do you just kind of like, I feel like writing now? And if you do have a routine, what is that routine? Anne, let's start with you.
I have more of a just kind of a setting piece. I would love to say that I write every day and I'm not interrupted. And we have 2 young dogs, so interrupted goes right out the window. I haven't had a complete thought in 2 years, not with puppies. But I very much like to just, when you were talking about music and all that, no, I like it to be quiet. I might have classical music playing. It can't be anything with words, because then I start singing and then pretty soon that's what the characters are saying. So that doesn't work either. But I write more in the morning. That is one thing, especially when I was a principal and I was trying to, you know, work 60 hours a week and write. I had to get up at about 4 a.m. before anybody else was even up. And that remains my routine is morning. I'm nothing after 6 p.m. I can't write a word.
Okay, all right. Madeleine, how about you? Do you have a particular routine?
When I write as Madeleine, I write in the evenings usually. Yes, after dark, with a nice dinner, with a glass of wine. I might go to a bar and write there, preferably outside, so I can just see people and imagine what they're doing, get some inspiration. And as Lisa Gold, I write mainly like really early mornings because I'm sharper in the mornings. So that works well for me from about maybe 7, 8 a.m. until 4 p.m.
Okay.
And I have some breaks in between, like I walk the dogs and stuff, but I'm quite disciplined.
Okay.
7 days a week, 6 to 7 days a week.
Wow, good for you. Radclyffe, how about you? Do you have a routine?
I have a word count that I have to meet every week. I know when my deadline is, when I need to turn my draft in for final edits. And so I count backwards how many weeks I need. And I have a certain word count that I will meet every week. I generally dictate my first draft early in the morning, or if I'm driving. I sort of learned to dictate while driving when I was still practicing surgery. And it's a habit that actually works really well for me, but I don't drive much anymore. So usually I dictate first thing in the morning, and I will edit what I have dictated over the next day, day and a half, and then dictate the next chapter. So it takes me about 12 weeks to dictate 70,000 words.
Okay, impressive. Carsen, how about you? You got a routine?
Kind of. Like Rad, I write with Scrivener, so it's easy. I just plug in my word count, tell Lady S Scrivener when I want to when I'm turning in the book, and she tells me how many words I need to write each day. And so I do that. And I have a good buddy, Georgia Beers, and she and I check in at the end of each day at the beginning and the end of each day to kind of say what our goal is for the day and how we did. So I'm accountable to not just a writing program.
Okay. And if you don't meet your goal for the day, do you guys like
Yes, there's
talk to
much
each other?
berating. No, but it does help, it helps to have that extra accountability and just someone to commiserate with.
Okay, yeah. I commiserate is often a word I hear with authors. You guys use that word a lot. Okay, here's a question. Elle wants to know, for the writers of series with different romantic pairings in each book, how do you keep the characters so distinctive and different? Rad, let's go ahead and start that one with you.
I think it's the same answer, whether you're writing a series or whether you're writing a new book. Every time you write a new book, it's all about the character development, the distinctive backstory that gives them the goals and the motivations and the fears and the uncertainties that they have. And that's what makes them unique characters. And I don't think it makes too much difference whether you're writing a series or just writing a lot of standalones. It's the same process.
Okay. Carsen, you have series. Do you agree with that? Or do you have something else to add?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I think it standalone or series, it's all about like what's the motivation of these people and where do they come from? What's their individual story that they're bringing to the big story.
Okay. And how about you? Same thing or more to add?
The only other thing I would add, because I agree totally with everything that's been said, is that you have the distinct pieces of these newer characters who are perhaps the main characters, but you're also trying to extend or add anyone who is a returning character without having them eclipse the main character. So it really is a lot. I think it says a lot about continuity and really knowing where you were, where you are in the series before, and where you want to go. Those pieces.
Okay. Madeleine, do you in either of your author personas, do you have series?
Yes, I have a series as Lisa Gold. I've written the Compass series, and I've recently started a new one. I have an amazing editor, and when I finish my first and well, all the books in the series, basically, she makes me a character list because I'm so chaotic and I'll forget. So just reading that back helps me so much with writing. So that's been fantastic.
Okay. Yeah, and that's actually another question that I do have for you guys is with your with the series, is when you dive into the next one, particularly if you've taken a break. If you're like, okay, I finished book 5 2 years ago and I've written another book since then, but now I'm going to go into book 6. Do you have to kind of go back and like reread your last book, or do you like Lisa have like, okay, here's my character list or whatever? Do you have anything that works that way? And I'm going to open up to whoever wants to answer first.
I have an Excel sheet. My editor keeps an Excel sheet also of all of my characters in a series, everything from eye color, hair color, anything unusual that they may have done. I asked her to keep a list of endearments because you don't want every character to sound the same with their romantic partner. And I usually will work from that. I don't need to refresh myself as to who the characters are or what their stories are. I mean, they're kind of like, your friends, right?
Yes. Okay.
So that's, if they're well-developed characters, they're there in your mind.
Okay.
Carsen,
Carsen,
I will reread my previous book because my memory is like a sieve, and it really helps me get into the next one. So I do reread.
Okay. Carsen, how about you? Do you keep track when you write a series?
Yeah, same kind of deal as Rad, but not an Excel spreadsheet because I have an aversion to them, but Rad knows. No, no, but I have a Bible, a character Bible.
Okay. And
Kind of a combination of what Lisa was saying and Rad was saying is that there's some some separated notes I have, everything from names and and that's for all my books because I really don't want the same name in 7-8 books. But also for the most recent one, I will do a scan or a skim to just make sure that okay, we're going to lift off pretty much right from where we were. I do need that little bit of refresher.
Okay, good. What's your favorite movie? And what's your favorite movie ever?
First,
you can watch over and over and over again.
Well, there's not one, so you're just gonna have to hear a couple.
Okay.
Because I don't usually rewatch anything. But if Notting Hill is on, I'll watch it again. I'll sit there for as long as I can. And because it's one of my all-time favorite books, To Kill a Mockingbird.
Okay. All right. Carsen?
I don't have a favorite movie, but I have a boatload of movies. I love disaster movies. I love Jaws. I love The Godfather. I'll go with The Godfather. How's that?
Okay. Just The Godfather or the trilogy?
Yeah, I'm gonna just go with The Godfather.
Okay. Okay. Radclyffe, how about you? Do you have a, if not a favorite movie, just a movie that you love that you'll watch over and over again?
Lord of the Rings,
Ah, yes.
all three. I could start at the beginning and go through them over and over again.
Yes.
Have you watched the extended versions?
Yes.
Oh, the ones that's like, we're gonna add 6 hours to your life. Right here. Yeah, yeah, definitely. Madeleine, how about you?
I actually, as a romance writer, actually don't like romantic movies. I like to watch Asian horror movies, preferably Korean or Japanese. Yeah, ghosts, not gore.
Okay, okay. Ghost Not Gore. I like that. That's a good title of a book, actually. Actually. Okay, so now you all are Goldie finalists this year. Congratulations. Well done. Excellent. Yay you. So now share with the audience what's new. What do you have, a recent release that we all should be buying? Do you have something that's going to be coming up soon? What's going on? Anne, let's start with you. What's happening?
In September, I have my very first YA novel that's coming out, which is probably a little late because I spent almost 30 years in public education, but it's called The Convincing Hour. I'm really excited about it. 15-year-old girl, Story Black, who realizes that the only way she's going to get a good education is if she goes to jail.
Okay.
Okay, interesting. Interesting. Carsen, how about you?
Yes, I picked The Godfather on purpose because my June release is called Her Consigliere. I've always been fascinated by the character of Tom in The Godfather, who was kind of the counselor to the Don, but not a family member, and his backstory. And I thought it would be fun to have a character in that same role. And so it's a mob lawyer meets FBI, undercover FBI agent book.
Okay. Radclyffe, how about you?
Unrivaled came out in May, and it's part of the series which began with Fated Love. And I am presently in the process of writing Pathway to Love, which will be out in November, which is another in the River series, which I just read from.
Okay, excellent. And Madeleine, how about you?
I am actually writing a collaboration with myself, Lisa Gold with Madeleine Taylor, and I actually like writing it because I think I found some sweet spot in between, which is my kind of writing, because I like writing in first person, but I like character development. So working title so far is The Next Life. It will actually be a romance novel, but it's sort of quite steamy romance novel, but a romance novel nevertheless. And it's set in the Hamptons, York. And I'm 2 days away probably from sending it to my editor. So
Okay.
yeah,
Excellent.
excited about that.
I'd love to be a fly on the wall listening to the conversations you have with yourself.
I never argue with myself. It's great.
Okay. All right. Well, that is actually, this is me looking at my clock. That is our time. So everyone, thank you so very much once again for being here today, for taking the time out of your weekend. I so appreciate it. Especially knowing that you BSB folks have lots of things going on today too, I believe. So thank you so very much. Everybody, go buy these books, go support these authors. And I hope that we'll see everyone everyone within the sound of my voice at the awards ceremony on July 31st. If not our entire conference, which starts in just 2 weeks. 2 weeks and still so much to do. So I hope we'll see you all there. Again, thank you very much. Wild applause for you guys. Thanks so much. Have a great
Thanks,
rest
everyone.
of your weekend.
Hey, thank you.
Bye-bye now.